For most of the past 2 decades, the story of technology in America has been one of constant progress, faster innovation, smarter devices, more connected lives. But in 2025, that story has hit a crossroads because the next great tech revolution isn't just about speed or power anymore, it's about rights. Today, the most powerful companies in the world aren't just competing on innovation, they're being forced to answer a much bigger question: where does progress end and privacy begin? We're witnessing something rare in U.S. history, a moment when the battle over personal data, surveillance, and digital autonomy is being treated not as a tech debate, but as a civil rights issue. Let's start with what's changed. Over the past year, nearly every major U.S. tech firm, from Meta to Google, from Amazon to Apple, has faced mounting pressure from Congress, regulators, and the public over how they collect, store, and use user data. What used to be seen as innovation is now being questioned as intrusion. AI systems that track voices and faces, smart devices that listen all day, browsers that record every click and query. Companies argue these tools make life easier and products smarter, but many Americans are starting to ask whether convenience is worth the cost. Because that cost isn't just about ads or algorithms anymore, it's about autonomy, about the basic right to exist without being constantly monitored, analyzed, and predicted. And that's what's pushing the US into what some policy experts are calling a new digital civil rights era. To understand how we got here, we have to rewind a little. For years, data collection operated in a kind of legal gray zone. There were privacy policies, sure, but they were buried in fine print. People clicked accept without knowing what they were agreeing to. Tech companies treated personal data as a resource, the new oil fueling the digital economy. But after a decade of scandals, Cambridge Analytica, data leaks, unauthorized surveillance, AI facial recognition misfires, trust began to erode. And now, in 2025, it's collapsing. Public sentiment has shifted dramatically. Polls show that over 70% of Americans now believe tech companies have too much power over personal data. More than half want new federal privacy laws, and several U.S. states, including California, Texas, and New York, have started passing their own versions of a digital Bill of Rights. These laws give people new power, the right to see what data companies hold on them, to demand deletion, and to block the sale of personal information. But the fight isn't just about transparency, it's about control. Because as artificial intelligence becomes woven into everything, from credit scoring and hiring to healthcare and policing, the decisions made by algorithms can have real life-changing consequences. And if those algorithms are biased, unregulated, or built on stolen data, they can reinforce the very inequalities America's civil rights laws were designed to prevent. That's why civil rights groups like the ACLU and NAACP are now stepping into the tech debate, treating data rights and algorithmic fairness as extensions of equal protection under the law. They're asking, if technology decides who gets a loan, who's flagged as a security risk, or whose voice an AI system recognizes, shouldn't those systems be accountable the same way any public institution would be? That question has become impossible to ignore. In just the last few months, the Department of Justice has opened investigations into discriminatory outcomes in AI-powered hiring tools. The Federal Trade Commission has proposed new rules forcing tech companies to disclose when users are interacting with AI systems. And even the White House has begun exploring whether Americans need a new kind of constitutional protection, one for their digital selves. Meanwhile, inside the tech industry, there's growing tension. On one side, companies argue that overregulation could stall innovation, that America could lose its competitive edge to China or the EU if it ties tech development to endless oversight. On the other, critics argue that innovation without accountability has already caused harm, eroding privacy, deepening inequality, and letting algorithms make decisions humans can't even explain. This clash between privacy and progress isn't theoretical anymore. It's happening in boardrooms, courtrooms, and the code itself. Consider facial recognition technology. In some U.S. cities, police are banned from using it after cases of false arrests tied to algorithmic bias. In others, it's still widely deployed. The difference? Local legislation and public pressure. Or take generative AI models. Some are trained on vast amounts of public data scraped from the internet, data that includes personal photos, emails, and creative works people never consented to share. Lawsuits are piling up demanding compensation and transparency. And then there's the workplace. Companies are increasingly using AI to monitor employee productivity, tracking keystrokes, webcam footage, and voice tone to measure engagement. Workers call it digital surveillance. Employers call it performance optimization. This tension runs through every part of modern life. It's not just a tech story, it's a human one. Because at its core, this isn't about code, laws, or policy, it's about power. Who has it and who doesn't in the digital age? For decades, Americans fought for freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and the right to privacy in their homes. Now the battlefield has moved online to our data, our digital identities, and our AI-driven future. What's unfolding right now could shape how technology fits into democracy for generations. If the Internet of the past was about connecting people, the Internet of the future will be about defining boundaries, what's private, what's fair, and what's off limits, even for innovation's sake. And make no mistake, this isn't a fight that will end soon. Tech companies are already investing billions in compliance, ethics teams, and new privacy-safe AI architectures. Some are rebuilding their entire systems to process data locally instead of in the cloud. Others are lobbying aggressively to shape whatever federal privacy law comes next, because they know this isn't just about lawsuits or PR damage, it's about legitimacy. For the first time in decades, America is asking its tech giants to prove that progress doesn't have to come at the expense of personal freedom.